Oh, it's cold, eh?
Yeah. I've just taken my hat off. I thought I'd look even older than I am if with a hat on.
Are you like me, John? Self-service haircut.
No, I delegate that to my partner. Actually, I know the limit of my own skills.
Oh, well, I had to delegate the fix-up to my wife because I had big tufts of hair everywhere that I missed.
Oh, mate, look, I've got to teach you how to do it.
Oh, no.
You got to start with it here. So say that's the shaver. Start with it there and go up the back of the head, and I can do it perfectly well. I used to get one stripe that was through the back of my head, and I always wanted to leave there and say that was the lion's tail. My wife was like, "No way are you leaving this house. Go and shave it off."
Oh, you see, I'm just uncoordinated, so I do that, and then I skip a part, and that's my challenge. But it's like going out for a cup of coffee. You know, I like my barber. He's a hell of a nice guy, and only charges me $20, and it's an outing. You know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, the other thing I was going to say is I've got mirrors that are I got one on this side, so I can actually look in one mirror and see what I'm doing at the back of my head.
That's smart. That's a good idea, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, how's everyone this morning?
No, good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's COVID-19 lockdown fatigue or Zoom fatigue. But also I haven't been promoted. I haven't been putting up a daily AFQY cafe post that everyone comments on and keeps a little sort of buzz of publicity going, which makes it what everyone turns up for.
Well, I got your email yesterday, and I joined in on the Thursday conference 2 weeks ago. So I was looking, when I got the email, I says, "Oh, what's happening next?" And it wasn't until I was digging into that I realised that you were doing the morning cafes, because I hadn't paid attention before. So that's why I've dialed in this morning, because mornings is interesting because I kind of like dive into stuff. I have a real good 3-hour period of productivity in the morning. So I thought, hey, do this, and it'll break things up a bit. So it might give me a different direction in my motivation.
Well, it's interesting. I was really struggling to get my ass out of bed, so I did this to make sure I was accountable to a group of people. And part of it is my wife's not very well, so she has a bit of a sleep in through the morning with the way her meds time. She has insomnia through the night and finally sleeps through this part of the day. There's Sean. So I was finding it hard to be awake at the time that everyone else is here to do business. And I find now, it's like this is actually my most. I read a thing where it said this is your afternoon. I have to find it. The afternoon is best for focus and deep thought work or creative activity, because in the morning you're so charged with energy. That's when you do all the tasks or something. Some productivity hack. But yeah, so I actually find now, if I sit here for an hour talking, it actually spews my mind out into all the ideas we're talking, and I struggle to do the work afterwards. So I've actually been going, I wonder if I should close up AFQA Cafe when the real cafe is open and crack on with work in the morning, but hey.
Well, I think the converse to that is, when I was working in an office with people, is if you have those meetings scheduled early afternoon, like in the 1 to 2 slot, which is like the normal dead zone, how do you liven those up? And is doing something lively actually the best time to do it in that early afternoon slot when everyone's having a kind of like an time anyway?
Oh, okay. Do the lively thing in the time that everyone's feeling a bit sleepy.
Yeah. Because otherwise, the converse is like what you just said. It's like, okay, the morning's your focus time. You can write your little 3 bullet points. This is what I'm going to do, and really crack on with that. And then after lunch, you kind of like lose focus and you want some new inspiration.
I do agree with you. I mean, we've got a staff meeting with the sales team at 9 o'clock, and I find that it's just it's going to sound wrong, but it's a waste of time because we don't actually get anything achieved. Where I just want to crack on. I've got emails to send out, I've got meetings to book. But if it happened later in the afternoon at that lull, it would be so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe there's the next pivot. I'll change AFQY, move it to the afternoon. And when we're all about to fall asleep and have our siesta, we can up.
AFQY bar.
Well, there we go. Now we're talking. I've actually got 6 cans of Lion Red left. I've been saving them. I bought them for my neighbour.
I can beat that. I've got a crate of Lion Red that I won in a 10K run 4 years ago, and I just hate the stuff. So I put it in the garage and it's still there. I'll donate that to you if you want. You know, 4-year-old Lion Red.
No. I'm from Dunedin, so I drink Spates. But you could argue that it's just the same as Lion Red. And but I bought it from my neighbour because he's an Aucklander. So we sit down and we have a Spates and a Lion Red together as a bit of a joke. But I haven't been drinking because my wife can't drink due to her meds and waiting for an operation. So in support, I haven't been either. So while everyone's been going, yay, it's lockdown, let's just drink it home all day, I've been going, can't do it, won't do it.
Yeah, no, good for you.
Well, I can beat you guys because I don't drink, and when people come to my house and you know,
I don't know that's beating us.
Yeah, well, they bring over their alcohol, and then of course they're too shy to take it away. So I've got a massive collection full of dust, and of course, it's not going to last for the next round.
Why do you not drink?
I don't know, just don't drink.
Yeah, kind of funny without it, so
Yeah, my wife says I am funnier when I drink. I mean, the other day she came into a cocktail spirit, and she doesn't really drink either. She decided she wanted cocktails, but there were vodka with a swash of lime. It wasn't too much of a cocktail, more than hard liquor. So I sipped on that and got horribly trashed. But yeah, it's not for health reasons or anything else. It's just don't.
Yes, well, I've actually been sort of thinking about that because I am certainly not fit. I've lost a lot of my, I guess you can say muscle, full stop, not just muscle tone from being a youngster. And certainly you want to work to getting it back. I just need to get started. Actually, the walking's been really good. So the 2 walks a day for an hour, which I never used to do, made a huge difference. Just had to stop eating all the chocolate chippy cookies and chocolate bars, especially at night, and then I'll be losing the weight.
I think that's going to be one of the big outcomes from this, is people just realizing it's nice to go out for a walk for half an hour or so.
Yes.
But that's where your dog comes in, right? I mean, they need a walk. So
yeah, well, that's exactly it. So yeah. I'll go and get him from bed. He's snoring his head off in bed, and I'll go and get him and take him for a walk after this.
Yeah, it's the best way. I bought resistance bands, and my personal trainers put a program together that you can do at home without really any weights. So I've been doing that 3 times a week when I feel motivated. This morning I was lying in bed with the dog under the covers, snoring away, cuddled up to me, and I'm like, bugger, this is more fun. And then
he agrees with you.
Well, so what we normally do, we would do that for John, because you guys, know what it's all about. So AFQY Cafe, when we first started this, and it was pretty early on, and we would start by introducing ourselves, which is a bit of just a very brief sort of who you are, meet the person, not a suit, and then what's the best and worst part of lockdown. So as this is your first time here, it'll be interesting to hear what your best and worst part of lockdown is, considering I've heard a bunch of these over every day, every work day. So you're coming in at the end of it rather than the beginning. Over to you, John.
All right, yeah. So I'm John. My background is around Internet of Things as applications. So I've been a keen advocate of that for several years. I started a meetup group here in Auckland, and I've actually got an online session this afternoon scheduled. I've also started my own venture called Boat Secure, and yeah, a number of other things around that topic. So what's the lockdown meant for me? So most of the time I've been working from home anyway. So I've not been getting called into the city for lots of meetings that can occur. So contrary to that, getting a lot more online meetings. And I kind of see people doing more forward planning, instead of being focused on the day-to-day stuff, the operational stuff, they're taking time to reflect how can they run the business different, and some of the ideas they might have had in the back of their head for a year or two, actually do some planning around those. So I'm going to be curious to see whether that activity continues when we come out, or if people end up getting knuckled down into how do we get the business working again. So it's interesting couple of observations, I think, about what the world might be like business-wise coming out, and how that affects business strategy and business operations. So okay.
Yeah, it's cool. So the concept of meet the person is more about you as a person, not about your business or business ideas. So which is fine, because whatever your answer is your answer. But probably should have said it at the beginning, not that you did, but just so everyone knows, and I'm being fair to everyone, because I had to stop Steve once upon a time, because it's not about your pitching or
yeah, no, I get that.
Business. Sweet, that's cool. Well, then we should probably drop down to our next least regular attendee, which is Glenn from Caravan. You can introduce yourself, everyone.
To be fair, Ryan, I have across the week I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different Zoom meetings between 8:30 and 9:30. So I do well. I punched above my weight to get here.
Well done, mate.
Yeah,
good mainlander stuff.
Oh, it is. For those that don't know me, which I think would only be Steve and John, I live in a little town called AFQY, which is half an hour inland from Christchurch. I'm working from my father-in-law's caravan I borrowed a year ago, which is a world of beige, formica, and very bad wood panelling, as you can sort of see in the background. One day he's going to want it back, but he's in no hurry, and I'm not going to take it to him either. I work for a security testing firm, and that's enough of work. Ryan, you said before it was how one of the premises of what we do here is it's about the people, not about what you do for a job or your company. I've actually been applying that, not to admit to learning something, but I've been applying that when I talk to clients, and it's really interesting. You talk to a client, you go, "How are you doing?" "Oh, we've done this, and this, and this." No, you weren't listening. How are you doing? Why are you asking? Because I care. I don't. I'm asking how you're doing. How you finding working from home? How's it with the family? How are you enjoying not spending money on petrol? I've actually found it as an account manager. I've found it really. It's not easy, but also really, really worth doing.
Yeah.
Picking up the phone, going, "How are you doing? Are you okay?"
Well, it's I think we're so conditioned to the auto responses. "Hey, how's it going? Fine, thanks." And really, and I'm just making this up. It might be, "Hi, how's it going? Oh, actually, I'm feeling really fucking shit. I barely slept. I was up last night with upset tummy, and all I could do was think about this, that, the other thing, and I'm feeling pretty anxious." When did anyone ever say that? And I think part of it, I think part of it is back in the old days. There was a soldier on. It could be worse. It could be this. Don't whinge and moan. So it's interesting that. So I guess the question is, why has it changed from that way to this? And I guess the rise in anxiety, depression, suicide and other parts of mental health are the proof. So just throwing an idea out there, the big question is, why is that? The bit I'll throw out there is it because we have got soft, because we are sitting on our computers all day and we're not out climbing mountains like we used to, i.e. our physical existence has got soft and processed, versus being out on the mountain shooting our food, fishing our fish, growing our veggies and digging the garden. Has that change of physical world led to the change of mental world for us?
I think we're in it together. I think that's the main thing. It's like, somebody could be going through personal stuff and you're not, so you can't understand. With COVID, we're all in the same boat. We're all going through stress. I mean, working from home, like John, I've been doing that for 8 months. But I miss interaction. I miss going out with people and sitting, sharing a coffee. I was just wondering what Sean was doing. I realised he's cleaning his camera.
He's trying to raise you.
I have a bunch of dust from my wall on my computer, and it was really annoying me.
I thought it was us that was the problem. You're trying to make us look prettier.
Yeah, it cleans Steve's face. I mean, yeah, I miss going out to the gym, and I think, as you were saying, Ryan, you miss that exercise side of things. My wife and I used to go for walks every Saturday morning and stop for coffee and have a chat. We still do our walks, but some of that's missing. I think you're very conscious that other people are experiencing the same thing. So I think at some level, it's conscious. And exactly what Glenn was saying. I phoned a contact of mine at one of the banks, and he straight away going is, I'm so busy, I can't get into any of these discussions. It's like, no, actually, I'm just phoning to find out how you are. I'm not telling you anything. And we spoke about for half an hour, because all of a sudden it wasn't about what we normally talk about, what a salesperson would normally talk about. It was like I was generally interested in how they were doing. So yeah, I think people's mindset has changed, and I'm hoping that will continue after COVID.
Well, here's two interesting things for you. All my sales career, I've only ever talked about how the person is, and how I am, and I guess. And as a short example, I could draw a map around all the different brands of companies and tell you, let's just say the head of IT's personal story with IVF, which I found by sharing my personal story with IVF. And basically, you start by sharing. Just walk into a stranger for the first time meeting, go, hey, how's it going? Yeah, my IVF journey's a bit shit, it's not working. But through a meeting, you unravel the layers of the onion, and then you get the layers of the onion unraveled. And so it's interesting that it's kind of new for people, because I kind of thought it was standard. And the other thing is, Glenn being in Christchurch, that's one of the things I found when I go down to Christchurch. Like, the atmosphere of Christchurch after the earthquakes is just so different. It feels like we're all part of, it feels like you're walking into the club rooms. Like when I first went down to Christchurch for an AFQY after the quake, not the first one, this probably, the first one had happened as well, but on one of the trips down, I got introduced to a guy who I hadn't even met until that very point in time, and we're just talking, and he's like, oh shit, where'd that go? Hang on. And he went, oh, what are you doing now? What are you doing this morning? I was like, well, not really sure. I was going to go and get my beard trimmed, because it's a bit feral at the moment. And no, let's go and do it. I'll take you to my, he had a beard. I said, I'll take you to my beard barber. So we went and got our beards trimmed together, sat there in the chair talking, and that was Michael Philpott, and been mates ever since. I doubt in Auckland someone would take you and share the experience. While it's only getting your beard cut or your hair cut, whatever you want to call it, it is that sort of personal grooming experience that you sort of do yourself. So it was quite, and especially for a stranger, it was quite chummy. But everyone in Christchurch, I find, is quite on next level chummy, which I really like. But in Auckland, it's just, you know, can't see anybody, or it was. So yeah, I think if New Zealand goes the same way as what Christchurch went, it'll be brilliant.
I was talking with one of my clients yesterday, and we got talking about the earthquake as a lesson from it. And I said, in some ways, he said something, I don't remember what it was, but we learned the lesson. We call it the wine glass lesson. We used to have lots of nice sets of wine glasses, and then the earthquake hit, and we didn't have lots of nice sets of wine glasses anymore. We had 3s or 2s or 1s from the sets. And we realized it doesn't matter if you've got 6 matching wine glasses. We actually had it when I was like 50 times. It was actually more important that you've actually got friends you can sit down, friends and family you can sit down and have a glass of wine with. And I think that's kind of that mentality that we went through then is kind of the same mentality now. It's like we're still grateful that when we can take the dog for a walk, we can talk to neighbours that we've never actually met. And we live in a small town. And we met them from a distance, but it's that being grateful for what you've got, because it's more important than what you think you should have. If that makes sense.
Yes. And the reverse of that is other people that don't understand that take it for granted, what they have for granted. So you often see this with kids and parents, and the kids like, and the parents like, be grateful. Like, I remember as a kid, even back, that's where it's actually coming from, my parents saying, and I'd be wondering what I couldn't have because other kids could have stuff, right? And they'd be like, be grateful for what you've got. And I think that if you think of it, you say it one way, opposition one way, of be grateful for what you got. People are grateful. And I thought that was interesting, you said, for things they think they, shouldn't have or didn't have or couldn't have. But I've never heard it talked about the other way.
Yeah. Topic jump. Sean, you said your youngest is, how's he doing? He, she? I don't remember. It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's doing. Last night wasn't very pleasant, but he sleeps really well during the day. Not so well at night. He's good. Tuesday of last week. So he's tongue-tied. So I don't know if you know what that means, but the skin that attaches your tongue to the bottom of your mouth in his mouth is too tight.
Yeah.
So the procedure to fix that is they take a pair of scissors and they cut it. And yeah, it's as bad as it sounds. Luckily, as a 5-week-old, he doesn't remember any of it. Because he's a 5-week-old, they can't use any kind of painkillers or local anesthetic or anything. It's just snip, blood everywhere, crying, screaming. They breastfeed it. My wife breastfeeds him, and he goes into a sugar coma, which gets rid of the pain. So that was last Tuesday. There's only one place in the Wellington region that does it. It's in Palmerston North. So my wife, who had a C-section and wasn't supposed to drive till after 6 weeks after the C-section, and we were under the 6-week mark, had to drive up to Palmerston North because only one person could go, and we have 2 other kids at home. So yeah, he's doing good. He's gaining weight. He's growing. He's 6-week-old, so he's basically a lump that cries and poops and eats.
It's a processing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does. He sleeps really well during the day. He gets up when he's supposed to get up, and he feeds for an hour and a half, and then he immediately goes back down and sleeps. And then something happens at about 9 o'clock where he wakes up and he won't go back to sleep unless somebody's holding him. And sometimes we can get him to go back to sleep, but then when he wakes up at midnight for his midnight feed, he won't go back to sleep again. He'll go back to sleep for 10, 20 minutes, and then he wakes up screaming, and then we spend an hour calming him back down, lay him down, and he wakes back up 10 minutes later. I don't know. I think it's just we're having to go through the process. It means I'm not sleeping much.
And how's your wife? The drive was okay?
Yeah,
Didn't upset anything?
No, she was good. We had her drive around the neighborhood once. The issue is that with
practice run.
If she goes to brake and the car jerks, the pain could cause her foot to come off the brake. So we had her drive around the neighborhood and try braking hard a couple times, and there wasn't any pain, so she was good for the drive. She's actually asleep right now. So we're now past the window. So I'm up. Maybe it's me. I'm up and out of the bedroom now. So he's asleep, and he'll sleep till 11.
Would it make sense to wake him up?
Well, no, because what do you do with him once you wake him up? Your only choice is you can hold him or feed him. If you go to feed him, he goes right back to sleep while he's eating. Okay. And if you hold him, he'll literally lay his head on your shoulder and go to sleep. Not at night, just during the day.
Yeah. I don't know if it applies to, I've never been a parent, but the you sleep when they sleep concept. So I sort of figure let them sleep when they can sleep.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. I mean, the reality is that we would like to get him onto a circadian rhythm that is more realistic. We have a 4-year-old and a 12-year-old. So, I mean, it's not like even if I wasn't working, it's not like we can't not get up. We have other kids we have to take care of. No. But I'm working. I'm literally at 9:15. I have another call I've got to go to today, but I'm in calls most of the morning till about 1 o'clock. And then I have to do all of the work from the calls from about 1 till 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And sometimes I find myself at 10 o'clock at night still finishing that stuff up. So, I mean, I have to work. I'm a contractor. If I don't work, I don't get paid.
Yeah.
Well, I take my virtual hat off to you, Sean, and I hope it comes right. I've got to jump off, guys.
Steve, it's good to see you, sir.
You too. Nice to meet you, Glenn and John. And you guys have a good day. And catch you in the next one.
Thanks, Steve. Enjoy your day.
Yeah.
See you.
Ding. And there were 4. Ding. So whereabouts are you, John?
I'm in Auckland, near Howick.
Okay.
So quite a pleasant part of the city. It's as when I introduced myself, the pain about being out here is the length of time it takes to get into the city. So I don't really usually relish city meetings that much, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm Te Atatū South, so we sit right in between. Either access to the motorway, you can go left or go right, and it's actually getting to the motorway that's probably the worst part normally. So I feel you. I can drive to the city in 12 minutes when there's no traffic. So I just drive and there's no traffic, 12 minutes from my place to the city. On a normal workday morning, 45 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I usually budget an hour from here to get into the city by whatever mode of transport. So I've had an electric bike for quite a long while. So I've often used that to get into the city because it's enjoyable, it's good exercise, and I know I can get to a city meeting in an hour, which is the same as going by the bus or by car or by the train.
Now there's a good subject, bus. So I used to love the bus. I used to use the bus as a kid, hated it. Then loved the bus when I lived in London because you didn't have to go underground. You actually got to see where you're going. And then, of course, come back to being a Kiwi and cars. It's only the last couple of years where I'll bus because I can get the bus from outside. Well, not outside, but it's a 500-metre walk up the street to where our street hits the main street and the bus stops right there. And it'll take me into town. So I just bus in and I work on the bus and don't have road rage when I get into work.
Yeah. I think that's one of the lessons that Auckland's still got to go through is the psychology of transport and what your preferences are, because there's a huge amount of inertia in people's psychology. And I think that's one of the issues of, Auckland, you have to be a car driver. And that's holding back public transport. And even where public transport's available, because people don't use it, they don't realize how available it is.
Yeah, I think the cities that, once the city gets to a certain size, I think making the public transport the default requires a effort of will by the government. I mean, you look at some Norwegian cities where they have basically said, "Yep, sorry, no cars in the city. You can take public transportation and bicycles, and that's it." I think it really, it's kind of that herd mentality, Ryan, that you've been talking about. People will tend to do what the whole rest of and there's a level of jealousy, right? Oh, the rich people can drive their cars in, so I want to be able to drive my car into the city. And you're not gonna break that. I grew up in the largest town in the United States that did not have public transportation. In the Metroplex. What's that?
Which city's that?
Arlington, Texas. So home is the Texas Rangers, the Dallas Cowboys, and it was when I left for boot camp, it was 1.5 million people, and we didn't have public transportation. There was no public transportation. There was no bus system. There was no train system. If you wanted to go someplace, you drove. It's part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which is 5.2 million people.
I was just going to say, if the Texas Rangers and Dallas Cowboys are in Arlington, then what's Dallas?
So the Dallas Cowboys were originally in Dallas. They really weren't ever officially in Dallas. They were in Irving, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. And then the owner...
When you say a suburb of Dallas, do you mean suburb in the sense that we think of suburb, or is Dallas a city and Tattoo South is a suburb?
Yes. So Dallas is a city. Irving is a city. Dallas is both a city and a county. So
okay.
Dallas City is the same size as the county, but Irving is part of the county. So to give you an understanding, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is Dallas and Fort Worth are the two large cities, and there are about 5 cities in between the two. Those two cities together are about the same landmass as the greater Auckland region, and there are 5.2 million people living in it.
Okay, so it's 4 times the size of Auckland in the same space as Auckland.
Yeah,
and no public transport.
So I know that sitting here in New Zealand, it feels like we have traffic problems. Let me assure you, we don't have traffic problems. In the States, I never lived closer than an 1.5-hour drive from the place I worked, ever. And the last place I was working, there was a motorway between my house and the place I worked that had 6 lanes going east and 6 lanes going west, with a maximum speed limit of 70 miles per hour on it that never got above 10 miles per hour during rush hour traffic. At 2:00 in the afternoon, it was bumper to bumper traffic on that motorway. And it was an 1.5-hour drive to work and an 1.5 hours. So I literally lost 3 hours a day, every single day, going and coming from work.
Yeah.
No wonder you moved.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's call that one out. No wonder you moved. It's like, I lived in Auckland for a number of years. John, you were saying about Howick, and that's where my favourite restaurant was. And I remember my worst ever drive home was 1:54. Because in Auckland, my experience is nobody can drive if it starts to rain or after 4:00. And unfortunately, this was a Friday, and I left work at like 5 to 4. I'll go early, and it started to rain, and it's going from the North Shore to Ellerslie. 1:54 to get home.
Wow. So
I moved home. I moved back to Christchurch shortly after that for some reason.
You're right. I mean, I've got to say, I don't know. I was gonna guess it's a big city thing, right? So, or maybe it's a cultural thing. But I remember I'd come back from my OE and was back at uni in Dunedin, finishing my degree, and it was winter, and I knew that this street was going to be icy today, so I was driving slow, and we'll just say a foreigner thought I was driving too slow, so they drove around me on a pretty wide, because the street's pretty wide in Dunedin, the old streets, pretty wide, but I was going over a hill, down the hill, and the university was right there. They went round, we got past, we saw a car park and put their brakes on and didn't stop. So their car went bounce, 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 bounce down the parked cars, and I trundled up slowly and parked in the car park and watched as they got out, looked at their car, looked sort of down the row of cars and drove off. So I went, that's pretty shit, mate. That's not how we roll. So I wrote down, this person hit your car by braking on ice and it slid down and bumped about 3 or 4 cars in a row. Here's their license plate, their car, etc., and wrote it out the 3 or 4 times and went and put it on the window screen with my number. And of course, I got 4 texts back from the 4 messages saying, "Oh, thanks, mate. What would you like to drink?" but the driving thing, when you come up to Auckland, Kiwis can't drive, especially in the wet. It's quite frustrating. What I don't get though is, I don't know, it's not that I don't get it, but emergency braking is what causes the problems on the motorway. So you have everyone's going along and one person goes, "Oh, I'm in a rush because I'm late. So I'm going to quickly cut across into that lane because it's going faster." And this person has to brake to stop that person hitting the front of their car. And that emergency brake is what sends a shockwave back through, and you go from 80 to 20 or whatever. And that's it. That's what causes the motorway to go to what it is, and it never recovers.
The traffic engineers refer to that as the xylophone effect, because they spread out and then they go back together and spread out and go back together as people brake.
I don't think it's possible to solve it. I think it's just the psychology of driving. There's some people who want to get ahead. There's others who are too cautious. Everyone's driving too close because if you leave a gap, it's going to get filled. Yeah. So I just think, look, it is what it is. You'll get frustrated with it, but that's just the way people are driving.
There's 3 things that can change it. One is if everyone drives at 60 kilometres, it's fast enough to get there, and it's slow enough that people don't have it. But also,
but that's your wish. Oh, if only people would do that, but it just, it doesn't happen.
No. That's because there is not effective communication, and they don't gamify it. So there's no consequences for bad behaviour, and as long as there aren't consequences for bad behaviour, people always go,
so,
doesn't matter.
I mean, there's a key part here, because I think about this because I cycle places. Is if you motivate people, says, look, rushing to get to your destination has no benefit. If you actually sat people down and says, why did you need to get to your destination 30 seconds faster? It's futile. So your gamification is, can you incentivize people to get to their destination slower, and that way will actually speed everything up.
Well, it's the mental health factor, I think. People feel better zipping 1 car ahead, and they feel like they're getting there faster than if they're sitting behind that car that's going a few kilometres slower. So
that's because we're being competitive.
Next time you're driving, watch this. People will be like, and then they'll zip, go through the gap and get in front of that car and get caught by people, but then they'll be like, okay, because they've got over that mental feeling.
Well, I think that's a youth problem, and by youth, I'm kind of saying almost anyone under the age of 40. That they're being competitive.
I do that. I'm 48.
Yeah, I don't think it's a youth thing at all. It's a human thing.
Hi, Gemma.
It comes back to people. Hey, Gemma. To me, it comes back to people don't give themselves enough time because they have a frustration with driving. It's already in their mind. It's like, I've got to do that hour trip. Okay, got to leave now, else I won't get there on time. And of course, they put themselves under pressure, and it's because they're not looking forward to it. So, to change the psychology, people need to be looking forward to it. I'm going to go for a drive to, so you've got to change the mindset and thinking towards traffic. So it's a chicken and egg thing, but there are no communications about this. and all it takes is one person to break it, and everyone else goes, "Fuck it, they've done it and got away with it."
That's the
Why?
issue.
Hence, consequences are required, right? So,
Universal consequences.
AFQY is a perfect example.
Yeah, they have to be 100%.
Yep. So if you the no selling rule, if you are caught selling, you get red carded. Now you might think, who in their right mind would walk a person out of an event and then expect people to come back to that event? Well, when I first did it, we jumped from 60 to 200 people. And when I next did it, we jumped from 200 people to 200 very senior people, because they all went, "It's true. You can't sell at this event." You know, so it's enforced. And I probably could have done it 10 times, but it is quite a serious social action, and it has quite serious consequences for the poor person that does it. So it's got to be really hardcore problem, and that's, you know, and there you go. That's me saying that. So it's probably partly why the police or whatever don't do it, because of the backlash. But if they use the cameras, computer vision, and machine learning, and we're able to go, just have it automate and go, "No, there it is. Send the footage to you, send the ticket to you. You've got nothing to argue with. You break the rules. Boom, you get fined." So, for example, in Singapore, you get massively fined if you drop chewing gum or rubbish. Chewing gum is actually separate to rubbish, to my knowledge, because it sticks to the pavement, and so. I was chewing gum, and I brought chewing gum to Singapore. My brother lived there for 7 years, and I was chewing down the street. And he goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm just chewing gum." And he's like, "Stop it, stop it, stop it. Give it to me." And I was like, "What?" So he took all my gum and everything, and he held it in his hands, and he went and put it in the bin so no one could see it. I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, you look how clean the streets are. There's a reason for it." And I was like, "What's that?" He said, "Because if you break the rules, you get seriously fined." It's like,
it's a bit like the broken windows thing that came out of New York City. That if you target the smallest bad behavior, you actually affect everything else as well.
Yeah, there's an upstream effect to it. Yeah.
what's that? Small?
No, broken windows. Have you not heard about this one?
No.
Oh, it's a classic kind of strategy play. So the New York City police or the mayor, I can't remember if it was Bloomberg or someone before him, wanted to improve crime figures in New York City, and they targeted graffiti and broken windows, fixed those problems, fined and punished people for creating those problems. And by targeting that smallest piece of bad behavior, it improved the crime across all of the neighborhoods. And it's just, a classic crime strategy that's been replicated.
Is it because they're visible?
Well, so it is. But the issue is that if people see, well, hey, I'm going to get punished if I do graffiti, that means I shouldn't rob this store. And that's their mentality is if the cops are going to treat, if they're actually going to enforce the graffiti laws, then I know they're going to enforce the theft laws from the stores. So it's kind of like, so the running joke is that a car alarm is not going to stop a car thief, right? A car alarm keeps honest people honest. A car thief that's going to steal your car, they don't care about a car alarm. They will disable the car alarm and drive your car away. But an honest person, relatively honest, that walks by your car and sees it and goes, you know what, I might like that car, and tries to lift the handle and a car alarm goes off, they go away. So if you make it in such a way that you're showing that there are going to be consequences for bad behavior without defining what the bad behavior is, then the honest people, the ones that are on the edge of doing something bad, will tend to stay on the good side of that edge. Now, you're not going to stop a professional bank robber. Fixing the graffiti in New York doesn't stop somebody who is dead set on robbing a bank. But it might keep a guy who's drunk from walking into a convenience store and robbing it.
It's a matter of what's socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good concept.
I got to go. You guys have a good day.
Yeah. See you later.
Thanks, Sean. Take care.
Sure. We have to hear more about that later. Well, that's interesting because I never actually finished university, and I've actually been thinking about going back and studying psychology, especially around group dynamics in relation to AFQY and different things, and etc. So this is something new to sink my teeth into. It was quite interesting because I was thinking while we were talking about it, is it the people that have got nothing to lose and wouldn't be any worse off if they did get pinged that go, fuck it, I'm either going to starve or I'm going to rob the convenience store. If I get caught, well, at least I get fed in prison. What is, aside from the professional bank robber, where is the point that people will cross the line in those situations? Like, it reduces crime but doesn't remove crime.
I think this ties over into marketing theory, because people follow leaders and you get early adopters and you get kind of change players. So it's like, people copy each other. So if you have one person sprays that graffiti, it's actually enabled a whole lot of other people to copy that behavior. So if you stamp out that early player, then actually the copiers and the followers don't go onto that either.
So how do you know though that's been stamped out, right? Because you see maybe it's because you don't see the spray paint and you don't see the spray paint having been painted over the next day, because it doesn't happen. That you don't have that cycle. I was thinking about the old days where you used to have public justice, where you'd be in the stocks, or even there's got to be other examples, but the one that stands out probably.
I'll bat in my right. I've held this thought for decades, that one of the problems with justice is it's not public enough, and the stocks did that. You were put in the middle of the village and pelted with tomatoes, and if we had that petty crime, some element of, okay, there's a public humiliation aspect to this, and occasionally the states do this. They have some wacky police chief who will make people sit on a corner with a sign saying, I'm sorry that I threw trash on the ground or something. And I kind of have this theory of there's not enough public humiliation involved in the justice system.
Well, name suppression. So anyone interrupt me, feel free to, as I interrupt everybody else. But name suppression. Why the fuck do you get name suppression? Because it might ruin your career if you have sexually assaulted someone. Like, Jesus.
I kind of get that. The consequences are so severe, but the problem with the justice system is it's too slow. If it takes 2-3 years to work through the process before that name suppression is undone because you are found guilty and all of your appeals have run out, it's taken too long. That's the issue.
So the name suppression is only up until there's a ruling.
Yeah. So it's not permanent. It's you've been found guilty and you've proven guilty and you've run out of appeals. So it's always temporary. But that temporary state goes on for too long.
If someone's found guilty, why can they appeal to the next court and then to the next court and to the next court? It's like going, Mum.
That's justice. That's our justice system.
No. I think, well, that's probably where there's a lot of money wasted that could be spent on better things.
Yeah,
I reckon. But hey, anyway. What do you think, Gemma?
I think the justice system is too slow, because if you said don't have name suppression and someone was then found 3 years later to not be guilty, then you can't undo the damage that's already been done. But if they get 3 years of hiding away from it and get found guilty, then they've still been able to.
That's guilty and it takes 3 years, and in the 3 years of court and appeal they rape 10 more times.
Or they get to keep doing their career and benefit from it.
Yeah. Those who are raped, do they get any justice out of that scenario? So this is where I don't get it. Like the repeat offenders. Guy's been pulled over drunk driving 3 times. The 4th time he kills someone. He gets 2 years manslaughter, the person dies forever, the family and friends lose their family and friends forever. He may have a, oh, woe is me, he has a shit life after that. Well, fucking hell. He's been caught 3 times. He's probably been doing it 200 other times. But this person still died. They don't have a shit life. They have no life. Like, I just don't get the attitude towards, oh, it will affect their life. Well, you know, there has to be a balance where the other people's lives who are affected get some sort of justice, I think. And it does seem, while the innocent till proven guilty, I think is quite right, the innocent and affected tend to, the victims and the affected tend to get the rawest deal out of the situation.
The part I don't get about that is mitigating factors. There seems to be a lot of softness of, you know, you were drunk, you're a drug addict, you were emotionally abused as a child. Those are mitigating factors, so your sentence or punishment will be reduced to a certain effect. And you kind of think, no, you were an adult. You made adult choices. You knew what the consequences of what you were doing. So yeah, a lot of the mitigation really puzzles me.
Yeah, I mean, there is that, what is it called? Sensible sentencing trust.
Yeah, I have issues with people like that.
Okay. But then you got to look at, we have one of the highest rates of incarceration per head of population, and no surprises, it's also heavily dominated by Māori, and you know, that's a big discussion to get into with 7 minutes left, but you know, it's the same everywhere in the world where there has been a indigenous, well, not necessarily even indigenous if you look at America, because Africans were brought to America, so they were indigenous to America, but the slavery here in New Zealand, the colonisation and all the mistreatment, and you know, what would actually change that? What would swing it? Would it be something that's a one-time event, or is it over generations? Is it, you know?
I think it goes back to what you say about, you know, psychology. It's not, then I don't think it becomes about the justice system as a process, but the psychology of human behavior. And if you want behavior change, it's where do you do that and how do you do that? And I think the efforts that are not part of the justice system are actually where the solution lies.
Mm. Oh yeah.
I was reading an article. It's slightly related, but well, it's related to the idea that the answer might not be in the justice system. I was reading an article about how COVID-19 has sort of shone a spotlight on our public health system. It's under-resourced, it's underfunded. And it quoted a study that said raising, like, properly funding and actually having a good national health system would increase not only people's health, but then it goes on to increase their well-being and the labor activity and the productivity and so on. And so I think things like that, it's, you know, are they well? Have they got support? Have they got a job, or have they got support to get a job? You know, have they got access to drug and alcohol counselling? All sorts of those little things lead up to having a reduced crime rate. And even,
I think that's very valid.
Yeah, even I guess with because I read another article about somewhere in New Zealand they were trialing basically like armed offender squads, and that no one had consulted with like the Maori people in that area, and they felt intimidated by these army armed defenders because they felt like they were being targeted. And so there is sort of, like in America, there is that bias, and it's like, how much does, if people think you're going to do bad things, then why would you not? Like, you fall into that trap of proving them right. I wonder if that's got something to do with it as well.
Yeah, there's I've done it myself. I think I've even said it in an argument where it might be so classic one, going out with the boys and getting drunk, and the classic argument with the wife, and something along the lines of well, it didn't matter whether I had 1 or 100, you're always going to get shitty with me, so might as well just fucking go for it. So it's sort of along those lines, but it's got, the whole thing's got me thinking, because it's like, I'm not Māori, I don't think any of you are, but could be wrong. So it's really hard to put yourself in the shoes of such a situation when you've never really truly experienced it. But if you think about your grandparents were beaten for speaking their language, your parents didn't learn your language, you grow up wondering why that is and find out why, you get looked down upon, singled out, treated poorly, and this is on average, not in every case, but on, let's say, more than on average, then it would put you in like a quite a anti, want to push back, fuck you type mindset. And I know what I do when I've been put in that situation for, I guess, other things related to my life and my choices. You do want to push back, be a bit anti-establishment, but it's like, so when you do it, instead of it being on an individual case, but when it's on a major population case, then to me that explains why we have such high rates of incarceration. And you can look at it from all different types of angles. From I'll stop there because it just seems like my mind boggles at the size of the subject and all the different aspects to it. But to me, it definitely seems like something that we need to change. So if the justice system is the hearse at the bottom of the cliff, not the ambulance, it's the hearse at the bottom of the cliff, what's at the top of the cliff that we stop everyone going off the cliff with? I think that's a society where people are treated equally, treated nicely, and there's nothing that they experience that makes them want to push back.
I've been quiet on all of this. I think that we do need to change our approach. I'm not sure how we jump from traffic in Texas to the criminal justice system in New Zealand, but it's a conversation jump. We did it. I think that in all cases, for people to make a change, for a change to happen, people have to choose to make a change. I have not had a great path at times to get to here. I was diagnosed with MS 10 years ago. It's how and I didn't do well for 2 years, but it's how I've had to learn to choose how I deal with it. I've had to learn how to deal with the fatigue, the pain, the stigma. Everybody, when they first meet me, I'm 6'3", and I say, if I'm getting into conversation about MS, they look down. It's like, no. My eyes are up here. Don't look down at my legs. There's no wheelchair there because there's a stigma associated with it. It's how I've had to learn I've had to choose how I deal with that. And I think to what you're saying, Ryan, we need to change society. There needs to be a change around how different elements of society are treated. But I think that comes back to, I can't change all of society, but I can change how I approach it. That's the one thing that I can control, is my attitude, my mindset, my reaction, and my action as well. That I can only.
But I'm going to jump in and say something a little bit controversial, and that is, you've dealt with this for 10 years, and you had how many years before that of good examples in life to be the foundation for you to be able to make good choices. And it's not to make excuses, but
I was homeless at the age of 16. Like I said, I haven't had a great path to get to where I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yes, there have been great role models, but again, it was that, and I didn't grow up, I grew up in a low socioeconomic area of Christchurch, and I don't know how many of the people I went to school with have had a good path. Some have, some haven't. I don't know all of them. I'm not in contact with them. But maybe yes, I am, to call it out, I'm white, I'm middle class, and I have, that has certain, not privileges, but sense of privilege. And
yeah,
I'm
I was going to say,
protected from some elements of stigma, I guess.
oh, absolutely. And, like, so my background, I guess it is a good example. So I had a pretty rough life through, not a very happy life. So I basically tried to live in another world through drugs and alcohol, so that I could not live my reality. And that was pretty evident when I went overseas and ran clubs, and I don't think I ate for 2 years. So that was me going, fuck you, in some regards, but it was more about me than outwardly. But yeah, the privilege factor and the way you get treated. So my wife is Māori, and when we were walking through the viaduct back at the time, this is going back 16 years, I think, there was still the last race for the America's Cup, last few races. So the viaduct was pumping, and this woman in a big fur coat and big gold earrings and big, necklace, who looked like Cruella de Vil, walked past us and went, oh, are you Italian? You're beautiful. And my wife said, well, no, actually, I'm Māori. And the lady went, oh, really? Oh, that's a shame.
Oh.
And walked off.
Where does that come from?
Oh, I don't know, but the whole viaduct heard about it, because I was just like shocked for a second. And then I walked after her and tapped her on the shoulder. And this is like right below the big boat. And said, how dare you fucking say that to my wife, you racist bitch. She's not Māori. She's not Italian. She is Māori, and that's not a shame. Fuck off. Go fuck yourself. How dare you speak to anybody like that for any reason? And people started clapping.
Good.
And I looked around, and there's a whole lot of people. Yeah, because she made it pretty clear that she had been racist about my wife being Māori. And people were clapping and cheering, and then everyone just disappeared, right? And the lady ran off. And it's like, this is what comes back to if you've heard me talk about, people will talk about stuff on their soapbox at their barbecue, where they feel safe in their little group, like we feel safe in this little group here. But if there's a much wider group, we probably wouldn't be having the same discussion or the same depth of discussion, or we wouldn't be able to open it. I might still, but I would say, not speaking for you, but I'd say that in a bigger group situation, a lot of people wouldn't. Mm. And the thing I think for society to change is we all need to get off our soapbox at a barbecue and get on the communal soapbox as a much larger group, as a nation, to be able to work through this, But it's 9:35. I'm going to close up the cafe. It's sad because it's a really enthralling discussion, and there's like, I don't know about you, but there's lots of stuff that was floating through my mind there. I was like, oh, I'd love to talk about that, but I'm not quite sure if it's appropriate, or if I was to say it, if I'd say it the right way first. And I guess what I want to finish off on is, want to create that psychological safety to say the wrong thing because the intent is getting to the right thing. So I'll leave you with that, and see you tomorrow, and hope I see you at AFQY on Thursday night as well.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ryan.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
Bye all. Have a good day.